Hey, we're talking about word choices, and today we're going to hit on words to eliminate. Some words just don't serve us. And Tom Brush here has made it his mission to eliminate some of these words in his speaking. I'm hoping that we're going to talk about a few of them today, but we're going to talk more in general because I'll give you a little tease. Next week, we're going to take the whole week and talk about each of the words that Tom doesn't like. But today we're going to set it up. That's coming up on today's Antidote.
Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Hey, Tom, how are you?
I'm well. How are you doing today, Bob?
I am well. Happy Wednesday, hump day, middle of the week. We're making progress towards the end.
Yes, indeed.
I should have been a radio disc jockey. And now traffic and weather.
You would have a good radio voice, I think.
I've always wanted to do radio. One time, this is weird. One time I set up an interview for someone at a small radio station up in Cecil County, Maryland. And I prepped the person, drove them up there and got there. And the host of the program said, I feel really sick. I don't know if I can do this interview. And I said, I'll do it. So I got to have a radio show for an hour. It was so much fun. And afterwards, the disc jockey said, I could not have done that as well. You really should have gone into radio. And I said, I've always had the face for radio.
Good joke. Will it frustrate you that I had a radio show for 2 years in college?
What was it called? The Hamilton?
No, it was A Brush with Jazz.
Oh, Tommy, that's a great anecdote. So what was your were you a jazz aficionado?
No, I knew nothing about jazz. But when I was looking to be on the show, someone said, we don't have a lot of people in jazz. And I knew the person who was the jazz program director. And they said, yeah, if you want to do it in jazz, you could do it. It's just, you'll get not so great times and you'll be able to do it by yourself. I was like, cool, I'm in.
How many times did you play Take Five?
Not a ton. I played it a few times.
What were your
go-tos? Geez, mine were probably not as much like classic jazz, like Wynton Marsalis, if I remember, and
right.
It was a long time ago. I'm trying to remember what it was.
Are there any episodes of this marvelous thing that we can access?
I don't think so. I don't know that they kept recordings of it or any of that. So
you did?
No. My first show was on from midnight to 2 a.m. on Sundays, which is actually a good time.
Sunday morning or late night, Sunday night into Monday?
Sunday night into Monday.
Okay.
It was a good time. So I would play
studying.
I'd play upbeat music the first hour, and then I would sort of slow it down the second hours.
Hey, we're going to slow down. This is going to be an all skate. Oh, wait, that's the skate land. Never mind.
It's not skating. Yes. No, it was fun.
Did you ever do a skating thing? This is going totally off the rails.
No. What does that have to do with a radio show?
It just popped into my head.
DJ, not a radio person. There's a difference.
A Brush with Jazz. Wow.
And I did color commentary for basketball games on the radio. So I've been on the radio a few times.
Wow. Very
nice.
And
in high school, every year your school would get a chance to take requests and play songs on the local radio station. And my senior year, myself and somebody else, I can't remember who, were the chosen DJs for our school that one day. So I've had my.
Do you remember any of the songs you played that day?
Oh, heavens. That was back in 1986. It was a million years ago. I don't know. Probably played Jack and Diane. Do you remember that song?
Yeah. I can. Yeah.
So that was definitely one that was played.
I'm trying to look up the top 1986.
I think "We Are the Champions" would have probably been in there. Probably some songs by Queen, I would think.
Okay, I'm looking at the top songs. The number one song for the year. That's What Friends Are For.
I'm sure we played that song.
Say You, Say Me by Lionel Richie was number 2.
We might have played that, although I might have played "Hello" by Lionel Richie, because Lionel Richie was one of my favorites. That was one of my favorite songs.
See what I did there? Truly.
Yeah. See, when you say "see what I did there," you forgot.
I did, just for you.
That choice of words isn't always helpful to emphasize what you just did.
So Tom, since we've taken a whole lot of time here, can we quickly do our celebrations?
Certainly. Absolutely. What are you celebrating today, Bob?
I am celebrating the fact that just when you think you know someone, they go and tell you something you wouldn't have expected. Like a brush with jazz. Had no idea. Love
Had a really cool logo too. I drew my own logo. It was like a paintbrush.
You sound like Napoleon Dynamite with his, what's it, Liger?
I have no idea what I watched bits and pieces of that movie.
The lion and the tiger, and he was constantly drawing it in school.
I guess. Okay. I didn't see the movie.
Classic.
So I had a paintbrush, and the paintbrush was painting, so the bristles were turned, and it said J-A-Z in the start of the last Z, but not all of it.
A brush with jazz.
That's something I could probably find somewhere.
That I would like to see.
I'll have to see if I can find that.
Wow.
Go back in the annals.
So what are you celebrating today?
So my celebration for today on Wednesday, I sort of hinted at it yesterday. So I'm going to let the cat out of the bag today. When I was talking about the 3 questions and the value that it provided over the last few months. So over the weekend, I found out that I was selected to do the first and second round games for the Division III NCAA championship games at Franklin and Marshall. So that was a significant step for my officiating career.
Does that mean you might see my niece? Will you get the Salisbury game?
No, I don't have the Salisbury game.
Okay.
It would have to be a lot further along. I don't think I'll get that far.
Congratulations. I don't think the average person understands the amount of time and effort and self-reflection that leads to that. But I know, talking to you over the last couple of years, you come to that with an eye towards getting better. And it's great that they're recognizing you.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. It was fun.
It's on TV, right? ESPN Plus or something?
Yeah, it'll probably be on the internet, which many people confuse with being on TV, is because, yes, you can find it on your computer and watch it. You're not going to find it by going to your television station and watching it.
Tom, I want to give you this one very important piece of advice.
Oh, geez. Yes.
We're moving up to the level that tripping, falling, anything like that, not going to help you.
Fair. Okay. I will be sure to pay attention as I'm backing out from the draw to ensure that I don't.
I will include you in my prayers that Tom back out of the draw and not have the ball come at him, so he must take a fall.
Yes, that would probably consider it at least a big part of a success for me.
I think it would be a ESPN top 10, no doubt.
Top 10 of here's what not to do.
Yeah. But that's great, truly.
Thanks.
I couldn't be more excited for you.
Appreciate that.
Will you be nervous?
I've had one of the teams before, so I don't know that I'm sure I'll be a little nervous. Okay. And I think that's good. I actually believe that a little nervous once the ball goes up and it's another game.
Well, in your case, once the ball goes up and it doesn't hit you, you won't be nervous.
And I never got hit by it. It just came at me. I avoided it, actually.
Came at you and the ground hit you.
Correct. I hit the ground. Ground didn't hit me. Just be clear about what happened that day.
All right. So we need to get into this discussion about words to eliminate. And you, over the last couple of years, it's been something that I think you've been really steadfast about. And I'm not being disrespectful. I mean, it's been very interesting to watch the evolution of your list of words that you don't want to use. And when I use some of those words, you have a problem with that as well. Not a problem, but you just call attention to it and say, hey, by the way, not judgmentally, just, hey, and I think that's great. Can you walk us through that overall logic? I don't want to get into the words because that's next week's episodes, and you know how hard it is for us to find topics, and I would hate to blow the topics.
Well, I think that one of the things is I've come to think more about the words that I use and the real meaning of them. And I think so often in the past, I'll just speak for myself, didn't necessarily do that. And I'm not sure that others recognized what was truly being said in some cases. And in some cases, I think just because that's the way people speak, that it was normal. That was the norm. Since we're in a time where what was norm is no longer, which is actually all the time. I just felt like there were things that I could consider. Some people shared some of these things with me, and some of them I discovered on my own. And the more I thought about them, the more it made sense to me that the words that I choose to use could have a different impact on the people who are hearing them. And, and I think part of it is really about what we've been talking about a little bit the last week is the judgment of it. Either they're judging me or I'm judging them based on my response. Excuse me. And so I think I wanted to be clearer. I wanted to ensure that the messages that I was delivering weren't cloudy or misconstrued. And knowing that I was never going to be perfect, quote unquote, perfect at it, it allowed me to know that I could start to work towards it. And so that the words that I chose were what I truly wanted to say. And what I know is that caused me to slow down a little bit, often sometimes a lot, to ensure that I share the message that I want to share. And I think that that's a valuable thing. I remember when I was working at Hamilton, actually, the college made a big decision that there were a lot of varying responses and reactions to that decision. And I once watched our college president be up in front of a number of people who were not happy with the decision that was made and have to answer their questions, challenging questions, and sometimes personally attacking questions. And what always amazed me about him or impressed me about him and the way he responded was he would pause. Not, so often you get that somebody asks you a question and you immediately respond. He would actually take a moment to pause and put together what he felt was the response he could offer at the time. And that always impressed me. I always felt like the ability to do that and focus enough to not just say what's on the top of our head, to share what's really in our head and the message, the way we want to get the message across. And so in doing more and more of that, I have found that there are words that I am choosing to use a lot less or eliminate if I can.
Are there words you choose to use more?
Certainly.
Okay. I'm just curious.
I think words like different is a word that I choose to use more. I think that it
different instead of a word like better or best.
Correct. It avoids the judgment of good, bad, better, worse, right, wrong, all those things that truly place an immediate judgment on what someone else has said.
Well, isn't that at the crux of the issue for you anyway, that it's about trying to avoid words that have judgment, especially negative judgment?
I think any judgment, honestly, is, okay. And I understand the value of, and I've rolled this through my head a lot. I have partners who will make a call that I thought was,
when you're officiating,
when I'm officiating, that was correct. and not always easy, not always favorable amongst people. And I know, being in that situation, that sometimes that's a hard thing to do, challenging thing to do. And so to go up and share with them, either I liked that call or I thought that was a good call, or just to say good call, is something that my hope is reinforces them at a time when they may be questioning what they did and why they did it. And so that's why I think that sometimes there are those words, there are value in using those words and how we use some of them. And at the same time, I think it allows me to listen differently. And maybe that's the key, is that I'm listening so that I can respond and not judge. So that when someone says something to me, that they're just sharing what's real for them.
Okay.
And I may agree or disagree, or kind of agree or kind of not agree, or am neutral about it. And I try to be more neutral about it so that I can then truly digest what has been said, see how it impacts me, and not so that I may change based on what they've shared, that it might have a significant impact on what's real for me that would be helpful, possibly. I think so often we hear things that we either completely agree with or we completely disagree with, and we immediately disregard. We just add it to the list of things that, oh, yeah, of course I agree with that. Or, I don't agree with that. Why would I ever listen to what you had to say? And I think that reduces our opportunity to learn, which I think more and more is what I feel like we're doing every minute of every day, is trying to learn so that the next time a situation like this arises, we might be able to draw upon our knowledge, experience, or perspective to help us take our next step.
Okay. So it does. Let me see if I can, I'm going to try to shorthand it a little bit here just to see if I understand. Eliminating certain words that have a judgment leads to you being a better listener, or a different listener, right? I won't say better, but to listen in a different way with an eye towards learning, not judging.
And I would say to truly listen.
Okay. Which ultimately leads to a deeper connection with the person, which leads to greater opportunities.
Yes.
I was trying to line chart that out in my head as you were speaking.
And I also think that it's a way for me to share what's real for me without trying to influence how it impacts them. They get to choose that. If I come and say, this is the best way to do this, I don't give them a chance. They'd be like, oh, yeah, whatever. So, like, for example, I've really tried to use common practices when sharing things rather than best practices. Because when somebody says best practices, I want to say for whom? And how many people are in the exact same situation where those practices are going to work exactly the way they worked?
Where they have the same knowledge, perspective, and experience that could.
Correct. We don't. Right. And so really we could say, here are some common practices that people have found value in. You decide, does that fit within what your situation is? Because I think so often, and while I understand that people be like, well, aren't you here to tell me what to do? And my answer would be no. I'm here to share my knowledge, experience, and perspective. And you can then determine.
Well, that's unique, right?
Yes.
Yours is unique, mine is unique. And if we're trying to carve our own unique pathway towards whatever we're trying to achieve, by definition, it's unique, which means no one's ever done it before.
Correct.
So by that logic, best practices really doesn't make sense.
That's what I've come to. What I've come to believe.
And there are a whole bunch of companies out there right now going, don't let them know the secret. We know, but it's just a way to make money because we do the research.
Well, because many people are out there looking for that, right? Correct. They're looking for what is the magic pill.
I was going to say that's what we're really getting at is that's what I think we as entrepreneurs, we as business leaders, we as leaders of teams are looking for. What's the magic way to make this easier? Because it's really difficult.
Like many things.
like
Whatever we're
anything
trying
that
to do.
matters.
Correct.
I was having dinner with an entrepreneur the other night in the real estate industry, and he was talking about he's 60 years old. He's been doing this for 42 years since he was 18. And he was still battling to figure it out. It doesn't get to a day where you're like, I got this thing licked. All right, unique pathway clear. Here we go.
And just copy it and everyone else can do it exactly the same way that I do.
Right. And I think when we talk about eliminating words, a lot of the words that you're eliminating are the ones that cause us to think less about ourselves. I've seen when you and I talked before after the program, you said to me today very clearly, like, hey, you need to eliminate that phrase. That's not helping you.
I suggested, I think. I don't think I
You suggest, okay. But and I'm not disagreeing with you.
No.
But I will say this. Eliminating words is a conscious effort.
And it's not easy.
No. I've been trying to eliminate the word but, and it is a nonstop problem for me.
I've been focused on that word for 2 years, 2.5 years.
Yeah. And I think that's what happens to us is often it's like eliminating chocolate bars or soda or, going to Starbucks, whatever it is. You do it for a week or two and then you go, it doesn't really matter. No one's paying attention to it. I think what's been really interesting to me as you've eliminated these words is you've been really clear about it. And you've called yourself out on it on this program. You've called yourself out on it when we're talking, when we're doing a variety of things. And I would bet when you're on a stage speaking, you call yourself out on it as well. So it's no longer just, I'm going to try to cut down on how much soda I drink. You're saying I'm not drinking soda, period. And if I get close to a glass of soda, I'm not going to drink it. You can do whatever you want. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things that the more committed we are to something, the harder it is. And in some regards, the more rewarding it is. I think that there's a lot to that. Like one of the other words, it's always interesting to me when someone.
This is the last word I'm going to let you share because we've got a program for next week.
All right, then I won't share it. That's okay.
Okay. All right. There's a tease. So what's your one thing today as we talk about this, Tom?
So I think my one thing is that if you truly want to find more clarity and you want to not only share your value and be willing to accept others, that you may want to consider the words that you choose to use, and as importantly, the words you choose not to use. I think many of the words that we can start to choose to eliminate, if that's something you're interested in, can help us be clearer about what we're saying and also be able to hear more clearly and truly listen to those around us.
And I think the thing that I would say, my one thing would be that this is not as easy as it sounds. I'm just not going to use this word anymore. It doesn't work that way. The word failure is one of the words I'm trying not to use at all. And I've used it 3 times today. It takes dedication and commitment and a willingness to find other words to communicate, which most of us don't work as hard at communicating as we probably could. We take the easy path because it's quick and it's just words. These guys are only talking here for 20, 30 minutes each morning. But I will tell you, and this is one of the things that astounds me. There have been times where we've said things where people have said to me afterwards, hey, I don't know if you realize you said that. And in the midst of how many millions of words have we done in the last 2.5 years?
Lots.
We're guaranteed that sooner or later, one of us or both of us are going to say something that someone takes away that we didn't intend, or we offend someone.
Well, and isn't that the thing? Here's the thing is that it happens all the time. Mm-hmm. Someone goes and researches, probably why it's really good that there aren't recordings of my radio show. Not that I think I was offensive, although someone may have listened to something and said, or they might have gone back and be like, here's something that Tom said 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
I think it's 30, dude.
Yeah, I know, if not more. And now we are being judged by those words. Whether it was something we said off the cuff on a radio show, talking to somebody else, today it doesn't matter. You said that. And I think that there's value in being as conscious as we can and are able to in the words that we choose to use and how we choose to use them. Because in this day and age, unlike back then, everything is recorded. All of our shows are on YouTube. And so if somebody really wanted to go back and be like, so Bob, when you're getting ready to run for mayor of Baltimore City or the governor of Maryland.
Yeah, that's coming.
We might want to go and whitewash that YouTube station because there might be something in there that someone else would take maybe out of context or maybe in context.
There are worse things about me. Trust me, Tom. That's innocuous. All
right.
I can think of two things.
So I think that those are the things that
I'm kidding, people.
I thought you were serious. I wouldn't have been able to tell by the words you chose to use that you were kidding until you said I'm kidding. Interesting. Anyhow, I think that's, and if they're willing to look back at that and have that impact them in that way, there are also things they might go back and listen to that would impact them in a different way. And that might really make a difference in the next step that they choose to take. And so I think that as we only have the opportunity to say so many words. At some point, the end will come. And so the opportunity to make the most of those that may impact the most people or impact people is what I think I'm trying to accomplish by doing it.
Tom, I'm going to go completely off track, and I'm going to read you some of the other big songs from 1986 that I'm sure you played. Okay. Secret Lovers by Atlantic Starr, Alive and Kicking by the Simple Minds, West End Girls by the Pet Shop Boys, Higher Love by Steve Winwood, one of my least favorite songs ever.
Really?
Kiss by Prince and the Revolution, made famous by Julia Roberts' character in Pretty Woman. Listen to me. Sarah from Starship, Human by the Human League, Papa Don't Preach by Madonna, You Give Love a Bad Name by Bon Jovi, and let me give you one more. What do I got? No One Is to Blame by Howard Jones.
Surprised there's not like a Huey Lewis in the News, or there's some of those bands that just came to my head.
And Manic Monday by the Bangles, Walk of Life by the Dire Straits.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that there were
Tonight by Eddie Money.
Half of these songs nobody knows.
Oh, that's not true.
Well, anyhow, you might have to that might be a good poll for the Ring of Renegades. We were talking about Tom having a radio show. Except I was talking about jazz, but my one-day radio that I did in high school in 1986. Which of these songs, do you remember, and which one did you find value in? I don't know. Probably there's not a lot of value in all of that, anyhow, and it might be interesting.
Well, I was in college in 1986, and some of those songs, just reading the title, made me remember things about that experience. Music has a very powerful effect on a lot of us. So if you're around for that era, you may have like, oh, I remember. Yes, I slow danced with that girl to that song. Probably not Kiss by Prince and the Revolution. Probably not a good slow dance song. I'm just spitballing here.
Probably a really good time for us to wrap up this edition of today's Antidote.
This has been one of my favorites, Tom, in so many ways.
And say that if you have one thing that you'd like to share, please feel free to put it in the comments. Or if you have words that you've chosen to eliminate because you don't find the value in them anymore, or they make the message you're sharing less clear, please feel free to share those as well. It might get someone else thinking about, how am I using that word? And is it impacting the way others are reacting or responding to what I have to say? You can also join us in our Ring of Renegades Facebook group, where things like this poll that we talked about, music from 1986, may show up. And there will definitely be information in there around word choices. So we look forward to seeing you inside our Ring of Renegades Facebook group, or we'll see you tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Eastern time, for our next edition of today's Antidote. Have a great day, everyone.
Hey, embrace the renegading you. And think about the words you use.
For how long? For how long should I think about the words I use?
I don't know, as long as you need to figure out if they're the best words for your situation. If they convey what you mean. Haven't you been listening for the last 31 minutes and 12 seconds?
I actually have.
Okay, good.
All right. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for listening to today's Antidote, powered by the Renegade Success Network. The Renegade Success Network helps you confidently create your own unique pathway to success. To learn more about the Renegade Success Network and how you can take your next step, follow us on Twitter, connect on LinkedIn, or join the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. For full details on how you can join our community, go to renegadesuccessnetwork.com. Embrace the renegade in you.